Hi, I'm Paul Friedman. I'm the founder of the Marriage Foundation. And the topic we have now is really actually a good one. It allows me the ability to get into marriage more. So you're not just hearing the answer to this question. The question is what to do if your husband is not happy with you. And so what we do at the Marriage Foundation is very different from what virtually everyone else does. You know, I used to be a divorce mediator, so I wasn't ruined by the typical psychological training. I don't even consider marriage to be a psychological thing. Marriage is a thing of love, isn't it? A thing of soulmates being together, to work together for what? Happiness. So it's like your question is right on point. What do I do? What do you do if your husband is not happy with you? Well, let's ask you some questions. Because in this world, we learn the wrong things because of who is teaching about marriage. We learned, for instance, that we should learn to argue correctly. Okay, that's an opinion that is widespread and most people agree with it. At the Marriage Foundation, we don't agree with it at all. You shouldn't learn how to argue correctly. You should learn how to never argue. Another issue that comes up that is totally misunderstood, boundary issues. People talk about boundary issues within your marriage. Your marriage is a beautiful space. I call it the sacred space of marriage. Boundaries? What does that mean? Yes, you should be respecting one another, but it's your job as an individual to respect the free will of your spouse. However, if they're not respecting yours, you're supposed to learn how to not react, how to not take it personally, how to recognize that your spouse is going to have flaws and you're just not worried about it. So do you complain to your husband? Do you criticize your husband, as is commonly taught that it's okay as long as you do it correctly and there is no correct? Or do you do what you did when you were first dating? You tell him how handsome he is, how much you love being with him. Do you take his hand? Do you kiss him? Do you hold him? Do you snuggle up to him? Do you smile at him all the time? Or do you give him stink eye? You see, you've changed. Why would he be happy with you when you're not the same person who totally turned him on when you were first together? Of course. And it probably the reverse is true also. You're probably not that happy with him. It's just that right now, you know, the focus shifts back and forth when you're in a muddle, when you're not running your marriage correctly. Isn't it true? Sometimes you're not happy with him, he's not happy with you, you argue, you fight, you have disagreements, cold shoulders. It's not good. It's not what marriage is meant to be. So let's take a look at what marriage is supposed to be and talk about how you can get it to where he's so happy with you that he's floating and you're floating and you're starting to experience what you're supposed to experience, what you're supposed to expect from your marriage. Marital bliss. By the way, you should subscribe to this channel so you learn how to be married. And then later we'll talk about you should like the video too. You got married because you fell in love. What happened was you're reunited with your soulmate. This is not a greeting card company expression. He is your soulmate. You're his soulmate. You're soulmates. And it's not your first go around. And you're not there in a boxing ring. You're not supposed to fight each other. You're there to learn how to love each other with that ultimate love of yourself. the soul. You're the soul. And you're supposed to work on that within yourself, not on the outside of yourself. And you're supposed to pour love into your relationship, love into your marriage, happiness. And you're supposed to do things that make him happy. And this is reasonable. Some people go, well, you can't do that all the time. Yes, you can. But again, we're not taught that we're supposed to master our minds. We're not, I almost said manage, but it's not enough. We're supposed to master our minds. We're not taught that. Why not? I'll tell you why not. Because we're not taught that we're not our minds. And we're not our minds. You're a soul. You have a mind. It's a possession. It's like a machine you use to operate in creation. It calculates, it appraises, it describes things to you. It's kind of a means of being in creation, but it's not your true self. Your true self is, God created man in his image. You're a soul. What's God's image? Fingers and toes? I don't think so. God's image is love, wisdom, bliss, ever new joy. And that's your true nature. And you're supposed to master your mind so it doesn't get in the way of your enjoyment of yourself, so you can enjoy creation. That's really the sum total of it. And I believe that God's gift to us of marriage is so that we could learn to live unconditionally in this world, which is a harsh place. This world is not a place where it's easy to love other people. But in marriage, it's your sacred space. It's just the two of you. You can learn, you can open your heart completely. You can give it all. And without expectation, without desire. Learn to love unconditionally. And if your husband is not happy with you, isn't it because of things that you're doing that are making him unhappy with you? We live in a cause and effect world, and people react to how we behave with them, not just your husband, but everyone. How are you behaving with your husband? You ought to make a list of the things that you're doing that you know are ticking him off. Make a list of those things and then vow to yourself, I'm not going to do these things anymore. Now make another list of the things that you know he loves. And don't hold back. You married him to make his life a living, joyful heaven. You didn't marry him to ruin his day. So live up to your vows and make a list and then do it. And master your mind. Make your mind go along with you, the soul. You see? When I first started helping couples, I was a divorce mediator, and a young couple asked me, instead of divorcing them, would I help them save their marriage? And I said, okay, let me think about it for a while. And I had to rediscover marriage because there's no good information out there. It's over 20 years ago. And I began with a very simple process. Because the first thing that I realized in my research, you might say, is that we get married for two reasons. One is we want to be happier, and two, we want to experience unconditional love, which means we have to learn how to love unconditionally. And so I laid it out to them basically in that way. I said, look, it's a binary choice. You have free will. What are you going to do? Are you going to do what will make you happy, or are you going to do what will make you miserable? And we met a few times, and they were both ecstatic, and it was working for a while. And the guy came back to me and he said, hey, Paul, this is absolutely obviously correct, but I can't do this. My mind owns me. And I went, wow. And so I said, God, what do we do? And I prayed and I meditated. And what came to me was this amazing technique called the SO technique, which we have in the books that I have, but mostly it's in the courses we have. And it's an amazing tool. It's like, okay, if you know what a Phillips head screw and screwdriver are, then you know you can't screw a Phillips head without that tool. It's a simple tool, simple process, but you got to have the tool. So the SO technique is like that. It's a tool for mastering your mind. The SO is an acronym. It's stop, evaluate, and act with wisdom, but it goes much deeper. It has many, many stages. So look into this. It's very valuable stuff at the Marriage Foundation. Listen to these videos. Be a subscriber. Be a follower of this so you can learn how to have a joy-filled marriage, not just one that solves little problems, but one that is like infinitely superior to what you have now. Because that should be your expectation, shouldn't it? Now, for those of you who have been following, who get what we're doing, and you want to be a TMF counselor, it doesn't matter whether you're a clergy or whether you just want to become a marriage coach or a relationship coach or even just do premarital counseling, whatever your desire to be a TMF counselor, I'm putting together a course now. It's starting to look really good, and we're going to have it on the website pretty soon where you could pre-sign up for it, get a big discount. And we want to have thousands and thousands of TMF counselors. It's going to be really awesome because we're changing the world with this. And we're now tiny, tiny, tiny. We want to be big, big, big. And in the future it will be because our stuff works. It's that simple, you know? So again, I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. Like the video. I really appreciate your time. And leave a comment if you'd like. God bless you and take care. Thank you.